Imagine buying a brand new Ferrari, but being told you can't drive it unless you buy a second engine to keep in your garage. That sounds insane, right? Everyone thinks the Airbus A350 is the perfect airplane. It's quiet, it's efficient, and passengers absolutely love it. But airlines are secretly panicking, because underneath that carbon fiber skin lies a mechanical crisis so expensive it's forcing the world's biggest airlines to ground their fleets just to survive it. You see, if you walk into any airline boardroom, the A350 looks like a miracle. Singapore Airlines, Qatar, Delta, they all bought in. Why? Because it burns 25% less fuel. It has a cabin altitude of 6,000 feet, meaning less fatigue for long haul. It's a passenger's dream. But here is where the nightmare starts. There is a metric airlines use called dispatch reliability. It measures one thing: did the airplane leave the gate? The A350 scores around 99.5%. That sounds perfect. Remember this metric. Now, imagine one tiny fuel line failed, and an airline grounded 48 Airbus A350As, 90 flights disappeared. And the scary part? The airplane wasn't dangerous. The support system was. So here's the question airlines quietly plan around. How can a 99.5% reliable jet still destroy a schedule overnight? The perfect plane on paper. Let's be clear, the A350 is not some failed aircraft. It's one of the most advanced airliners ever built. Carbon fiber body, modern aerodynamics, efficient engines, and to passengers, it feels premium. Airlines love it for the same reason. Fuel is the biggest bill. So when Airbus says less fuel, longer range, airlines hear one word: profit. And that's why the A350 spread across the world so fast. But this is where people get tricked, because the A350's reputation is built on a number: dispatch reliability, 99.5%. And yes, most days it leaves the gate. But that metric hides the only day that matters: the day it doesn't. Here's the real truth. Airlines don't go bankrupt from normal days. They bleed from abnormal days. A single aircraft going down is annoying, but a single aircraft going down in the wrong place, therefore taking down your network, that's a crisis, because airlines aren't just selling seats. They're selling a chain of events: aircraft, crew, slots, gates, connections, hotel rooms, cargo. When one link breaks, the whole chain shakes. And the A350 has one hidden weakness: not in the wing, not in the cockpit, in the part nobody puts in the brochure: the support ecosystem. The A350's marriage. Here's the first thing airlines learn the hard way: the A350 isn't just an Airbus product, it's a package deal. Because every A350 is tied to one engine family: Rolls-Royce Trent XWB, no second supplier, no alternative engine line you can switch to. If you buy the A350, you're not dating Rolls-Royce, you're marrying them. And most marriages are fine until something goes wrong. Take an airline like Emirates. Their entire brand is built on long haul, hot weather, high utilization, tight scheduling. Their margin for error is tiny. So when Emirates complains about engine durability, it's not drama, it's survival math. Because when engines don't stay on wing long enough, therefore you don't just pay more, you redesign the entire airline. Here's the key concept: airlines don't fear maintenance. Maintenance is expected. Airlines fear unplanned removals, the surprise event, the sudden engine change, the aircraft that can't leave. Because surprise events are where schedules die. And on a modern widebody, one surprise event is never one day. It's a domino line. Why reliable can still be a disaster? This is the part nobody explains. Dispatch reliability asks, did it depart? But airlines live and die by a different question. If it breaks, how fast can we recover? Because recovery is not just a repair. Recovery is, where is the plane? Do we have the part? Do we have the tools? Do we have the certified people? Can we move a spare engine there? Can we get a replacement aircraft? And can we do all of that before the network collapses? If any of those answers is no, therefore you don't have a maintenance event. You have an operational emergency. And this is where the Ferrari analogy becomes real. Imagine the car is perfect, but the dealership tells you if the engine fails, the wait list is 6 months. Suddenly, you'd buy a spare engine, not because you want to, because you can't afford to be stuck. That's the A350 problem. The aircraft can be brilliant, but the downtime risk can be so expensive, therefore airlines start buying backups. The spare engine tax. Let's talk about the secret purchase: spare engines. Airlines don't like spare engines because spare engines don't make money. They just sit like a second Ferrari engine in your garage. But airlines buy them anyway because the alternative is worse: a wide body stuck on the ground, crew out of position, passengers rebooked, cargo delayed, slots lost, reputation damaged, and the costs don't add, they multiply. multiply. So airlines use a rule of thumb, roughly 1 spare engine for every 10 installed, around 10%. That's the "we can survive surprises" ratio. But here's the catch. If engines come off more often and repairs take longer, therefore 10% isn't enough. Now you need more. 15%, maybe 20%, which means you're buying extra engines, not to grow, not to add routes, not to carry more passengers, just to keep your existing schedule from falling apart. That's a tax paid in metal, and it's why airlines don't just buy an A350, they buy the ecosystem, why the weight is the real enemy. Now here's the part most people miss. The scary thing isn't the repair, it's the weight. Because modern wide-body maintenance is not a quick pit stop. When an engine is removed, it goes through a chain: teardown, inspection, parts replacement, rebuild, testing, and then shipping back. If everything is smooth, it can take weeks. But if parts are constrained or the shop is overloaded, therefore, that timeline explodes. And in the mid-2000s, demand did explode. More flying, more wide bodies back in service, more engines entering heavy maintenance, and airlines all relearning the same painful lesson. You don't control the calendar, the supply chain does, which means an A350 can be 99.5% reliable. But if the remaining 0.5% turns into multi-week downtime, therefore, the business impact is enormous. Reliability isn't just, does it fly? It's, can we keep it flying? The day one fuel line grounded 48 A350s. Now we get to the story that proves the point. September 2nd, 2024. A Cathay Pacific A350-1000 departs Hong Kong for Zurich. About 75 minutes in, a fuel line fails. No explosion, no Hollywood drama, just a failure serious enough to force a return. The crew handles it, everyone is safe. But what happens next is the real story. Cathay grounds its A350 fleet. Not one aircraft, not 5, all of them. 48 A350s, because the risk wasn't this one plane. The risk was, what if this part is a fleet issue? So they inspect fast, and they start finding aircraft that need fuel line replacements. And now the departures board becomes a horror movie. Roughly 90 flights cancelled, a network shaken by one small part. Now, Cathay recovered, the fleet returned, the system worked. But here's why airlines watched this closely. Cathay got lucky, because the question wasn't, can we inspect? The question was, if replacements aren't available, what then? Because if one part becomes scarce, therefore you don't have a few cancellations, you have weeks of chaos. And the most terrifying label in airline operations appears: AOG, aircraft on ground. That's the moment dispatch reliability stops mattering, because the plane isn't late, it's not flying. The ecosystem cost nobody talks about. Here's what airlines actually buy when they buy a modern widebody. Not just the aircraft, an ecosystem. Lease payments that continue even if the plane is grounded. Maintenance reserves paid every month. Pilot training and type ratings. Specialized mechanic training, tooling that only fits that aircraft. Engine support contracts, parts pipelines, spare engines, backup plans. And most of that ecosystem is invisible until the day something breaks. Then you see it on the departures board, on the balance sheet, and in the panic meetings, because when an A350 goes down in a major hub, you can scramble. But when it goes down in a place without the right support, therefore it becomes a rescue mission. You fly mechanics in, you fly parts in, you reposition crews, you swap aircraft, you charter, you wet lease, and each decision is expensive. So airlines do something that looks boring, but it's actually strategic. How airlines quietly plan around the A350. This is the part nobody sees. Airlines don't just operate the A350. They plan around the day it stops being available. Here are the quiet moves. Move 1, schedule slack. Longer turnarounds, extra buffer. Not because it's efficient, because it's resilient, but slack costs money. Therefore, you only add it where you're terrified of failure. Long haul, peak season, tight hubs. Move 2, standby aircraft. A backup widebody sitting there earning nothing until the day it saves you from canceling a flagship route. Move 3, geographic planning. Airlines position spares and support near where the fleet lives, because if an engine fails on the other side of the planet, therefore your quick fix becomes a multi-day logistics puzzle. Move 4, the most brutal one. Avoid the risk. Sometimes airlines delay orders. Sometimes they choose a different model, not because the A350 isn't good, but because the support math scares them. And that is the line between a great airplane and a safe investment. The real reveal. Remember that metric, dispatch reliability, 99.5%. Here's the problem. It makes passengers feel safe. It makes investors feel calm. It makes the aircraft look perfect. But airlines don't fear the average day. Therefore, airlines plan for the worst day. The day one part fails. The day one engine comes off. The day one supplier can't deliver. Because modern aviation is a chain. Aircraft, engines, shops, parts, people, contracts, logistics, network. And when one link breaks, the whole system feels it. So the A350's problem isn't that it's unsafe, it's that the support system can be pushed to the edge, and when that happens, airlines pay a hidden price in spare engines, in buffers, in grounded aircraft, in cancelled flights, the last dab. So yes, the A350 can be a miracle, but if you need a second engine just in case, therefore it was never really a simple purchase. It was a deal with the ecosystem. Great airplanes don't run airlines, systems do, and the A350 problem nobody mentions is simple. It's easy to fly. It's hard to keep flying. Quick question. Would you rather fly the newest airplane or the one with the strongest support network? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want more videos like this, where we break down the hidden economics behind aviation, subscribe. See you in the next one.